Uh, so you're hosting. Are you going to introduce Judy?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah, that's the plan. This is a little bit different, this WebEx to ours, so I haven't seen her get on yet, which is a bit strange.
Ah. I have the. I have Max live. I think. Actually I haven't seen Max in many years, but I think that's Max.
Yeah, that is Max.
Okay. All right. You can see him too.
Yeah, I can see him too.
Okay.
I can see him too.
Okay. All right. Good.
Attendee. I don't know how to do it. Oh, we're talking to each other. Hello, Max?
Hello?
Oh, hi. Who have we got on the line?
Hi, it's Melissa.
Oh, hey, Melissa. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Nice to see you. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, you too. You too.
So it's not on the computer. This is only on the phone.
I'm not 100% sure. It is on the computer, so you can see the computer. It looks like the audio's on the phone.
Yeah, I don't have a picture. It just put me right to that I needed to dial in. Oh, here. No. I do see you, actually.
Yeah, no, that's Max.
That's Max. I see Max,
yeah,
but I don't know if we can talk. I don't know if, I'm curious if we can.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to try something. I'm just going to pop off for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Melissa, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello, this is Keith Blevins.
Hi, how are you? I can hear you fine, but I don't see you on the screen. But I guess I don't need to if I can't hear anyway. I would just go off the screen, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm one of the attendees, so I'm just like you. I have Max on the computer, but on my computer, but I don't have anything else. But I was just chatting with Aaron, and you came on, so I thought I would say hello.
Hi, it's nice to meet you on the phone. I've watched a few of your things, and I enjoyed all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I think you had done a seminar series on Tikkun maybe last year, right?
Yes.
It was on the paradigm shift, right? You were talking about the paradigm shift.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I use it when I teach.
Oh, good. Good.
I really do. I talk a lot about paradigm shifts because people, they don't get it right away.
Yeah.
So
I found that to be very helpful. It helps them to, but I do often need to explain what a paradigm is, so they get some idea of the magnitude of the principles and the relevance of the principles to everything.
Yeah, and I loved how you talked about the germs and the germ theory, because that made it so clear to me. I was like, I had never thought of it that as a paradigm shift, honestly, because in my time, by the time I was born, it wasn't like we knew about germs. It was nothing to talk about. You know what I'm saying? So when you put it in that way, I was like, oh my God, that makes sense.
I know.
Yeah.
I love that simple example where the doctors that didn't get germs they would have the nurses sterilize the instrument, but they wouldn't wash their hands. That was like a great idea of the mixed paradigm that we're.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like a perfect example, I'm going to use that in my book too, because it's just a very
it's so simple, and it's like even sometimes with the principal, someone would be like, okay, like it just happened. I've been teaching it to my aunt and whatever for a while now, for a couple of years, but she's just not so getting it, you know what I'm saying? But now she's been going through anxiety. She's having heart palpitations. So I talked to her a few times already, really sat with her for an hour, and I spoke to her, and I was talking to her about thought and da-da-da. And then all of a sudden she calls me yesterday. She goes, I see all my thinking. All I'm doing is thinking. That's all I'm doing. And I felt like, okay, we just got to, it's time to also sterilize the instruments, not just wash our hands. Like, she kept saying, I know I'm thinking, I know I'm thinking, I know. All of a sudden, she goes, get over here now. We need to talk about it. And she had like a big shift the other day because we sat for an hour and she just kept saying, like, her whole thing was, how do I get rid of the thoughts? Because now she saw them. And it took an hour only, and she really, like, because, so I just said, be aware at this point. The first step is to be aware. We're not worried yet about how to get rid of them. Notice them, know they're there, know that they're fine, know that, whatever I said to her. And it was just so I was thinking about your example. I'm like, okay, we're up to stage 2 of germ theory. Now we need to get to cleaning the sheets also on the beds that the patients are on. It comes in shifts. Some people really get it in a second, honestly. Not everyone needs to be in shifts, but, she's really going in shifts, which I think I did also, actually, when I was first learning it. Yeah.
Most people, the needle moves, and then sometimes you get those big jumps, like that, and it's very common.
Yeah, and it's nice when it happens. It's nice when it happens.
I know. It's now you can have a different conversation.
Yeah, and it's so funny because, like, right after that appointment, she called me. She's like, I need to see you every week. And I'm like, I've been telling you that for 3 months. Like, are you ready yet? She's like, I need to see you every week. Why didn't I see you every week since I started this anxiety stuff? I'm like, because you weren't ready. But it was just very cute to watch her get it, which whenever your clients get it, it's amazing to watch, but this is my aunt, so I was really extra happy.
Hello, this is Judy.
Hi.
So I can't get
Judy.
to the WebEx. I was in, and then I was trying to send messages, and I wasn't getting an answer, so I backed out, and I tried to re-enter, and now I can't get in. So I called.
We're not getting sound on the WebEx anyway, so I have a feeling we're just going to end up, right? Because I think Erin also was trying to get sound on the WebEx.
Yeah, I couldn't. For a minute there, I saw a picture, but I couldn't see, I couldn't hear anything. And then I kept sending messages and not getting a response. Right. So.
And Judy, did you log on? I assumed you logged on with your, the email that came to you as a presenter, right?
No, I didn't get an email as a presenter. I got a copy of an email that you sent to Don that just said how to log on. And that's why I was, and then I was writing messages saying, how do I log on as a presenter? Because, however, I can't now. My computer is not logging on at all. I'm going to just shut down and restart because I don't know what to do.
Oh, so I'm going to say hi. Hi, Judy. This is Keith.
Hey, Keith. How are you?
I'm doing great.
So, once more, foiled by technology.
Yeah.
I should have stayed. I should have stayed where I was, but I wasn't getting any. I wasn't communicating with anybody, and I couldn't see that anybody else was on the site except for the host. And so I thought, well, I better log out and log in again, and that was my first mistake. So now I can't log in at all.
It sounds like you'll be on a different wavelength somehow than the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, at least I can talk, so that's good.
Hi, Judy. This is Dickin.
Hi, Dickin. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I can hear you great, so if we have to...
I'm on the phone. So,
me too.
Yeah.
I just want to warn everyone that I thought I could log off the computer, and the phone hung up on me. So you need to stay on the computer while you're on the phone.
Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Because I just got pushed off the call, and I had to do the whole WebEx thing again and redial in.
Oh.
So you need the computer on.
See, well, my computer is not linked into WebEx at all, and I'm just on the phone. So
isn't that funny? Mine completely hung up on me.
Huh. Well,
yeah.
Weird.
So hey everybody, it's Aaron here. It looks like the dialing in over the computer part of things hasn't worked for this conference. So if everybody except Judy could mute themselves, we'll get started. I think next time we should have video, but for this first one, I think it's going to be old school, not, drums and smoke signals, but just the old-fashioned telephone.
How do we mute?
Well, however you normally mute your phone, there should be a mute button on your phone.
Oh, let me see. I have one. Okay.
Yeah. Are you there, Judy?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great. I'm sorry about this, Judy, that your
problem.
email didn't come through properly and that we don't get to see you. I bet you're looking fabulous.
Well, I did get dressed. I'll give you that. I'm not in my pajamas.
I thought so. But if everyone could just press the mute button on their telephone, we'll get started. And this is the first of the 3PGC webinar series. The intention is to have video webinars, but I think we got a little bit of fine-tuning on the technical side to go. So for this time, we'll just be audio. There's someone still needs to mute their telephone. We can hear you. If you haven't pressed mute on your telephone, we can hear you.
There's a baby somewhere.
Yeah. So anyone with a baby and a dog who hasn't pressed mute, press that on your telephone. That would be great.
I'm getting a lot of static. Are you hearing the static?
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. Yeah. So putting on the Hoover, not the same as pressing mute.
Really loud.
Yeah, it's loud here too, Judy.
While we're trying to work that sound out, Aaron, several people have asked me if this is going to be recorded, and I know now that it's, since we're not.
No, it is being recorded.
Okay. So, and it'll be on the website?
It will be on the website,
okay,
absolutely.
Great.
It'll be recorded and it'll be on the website.
Okay, great.
So all of these webinars will be recorded and then go onto the website. There'll be one every month. It's free to members of the 3PGC, and membership at the moment is free too. And we just have a wonderful range of speakers. We've got some of the people on the line today: Judy, Sedgeman, Keith Blevins, Dickon Bettinger, Chip Chipman, I think. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe Chip. Maybe Elfie, George and Linda Pransky, Mara Gleason. So we have a huge range of speakers. And because we'll be doing them monthly, we'll have more and more speakers. So you get to hear from a huge range of principle-based practitioners. And today it's our pleasure to host and announce Judy Sedgeman, who is an extremely wide-ranged and experienced principle-based practitioner. So she's worked in healthcare, in academia, in business and corporations, and has kind of a wonderful commitment to kind of the purity and the potential of the principles, but also an ability to write about it and talk about it in a very eloquent way. And in a very powerful way. So I'm delighted to introduce Judy. I hope you're still there, Judy. I'm going to mute myself.
I'm definitely still here. Now, is there a way that it's okay for people to unmute to ask a question, right, and then mute again?
Yes,
do it that way?
It's okay for people to unmute and ask a question, absolutely.
Okay, because I think that's, I like to know that in advance. All right, well, hi, everybody. This is Judy, and I am really excited to have the chance to kick off this seminar, and I will tell you that right now my dog is sleeping and in the room in her little bed, but every once in a while when I talk, like do Skype calls and everything, she wakes up and she thinks I'm talking to her, and she starts talking back. And I hope that doesn't happen, but if you happen to hear a dog making little dog sounds in the background, that's what it is. and I will try very hard to not get her attention. So anyway, I wanted to talk about the principles as gifts today, partially because seasonally, no matter what our belief system or what our whether we know it or not. And I think the whether we know it or not piece of it is so important, because as we all go through life, we inadvertently or innocently or without even realizing what we're doing, if we happen to be choosing to indulge in a lot of negative thinking and keep that negative thinking going, that's what we're creating. We're using the gift of our creative power, the three principles, to create misfortune or unhappiness or whatever. And if we suddenly wake up to the fact that, oh, wait a minute, I have these gifts. I have the gifts of mind, thought, and consciousness. I am the source, the creative source of my own experience of whatever's going on. Then that awareness is the ultimate, to me, the ultimate gift. The gift that we can become aware of how our thinking works, and that our thinking is a spiritual experience and not just a process, that it's deeper than just, a process like, dialing a phone or doing something, a task. That this is the spiritual energy of life manifesting every single moment that we're in this world. And I know a lot of people, certainly in the U.S. now, because of the tragedy that occurred in Newtown, Connecticut, a lot of people here are saying, well, yes, but how could these people not be indulging in their miserable thoughts? And I think it's very interesting for me when I look at what people are saying. The first person who came out and spoke about his daughter, I think it was a little girl named Emily, one of the most important things that he said is, I am not angry because I can choose what to do with all of these feelings that I have, and that's not where I want to go. And I think that was something that people were so stunned by it that they kind of missed it. As the commentators were talking about all these various statements that were being made about the children, they're missing the fact that so many people were actually talking about self-direction, how they wanted to use their way of handling this situation for positive, not negative outcomes. And for people that had other children at home, they would say things like, I can't afford to let this overtake my life because I've got to care about my other children. I've got to be there for them. I've got to explain it to them. So even in the midst of this very horrible situation, which of course they couldn't help but have fearful and upsetting and anguished thoughts, they saw themselves using their thinking, whether they were consciously aware of how they were describing it or not. It is true knowledge that we have as human beings. Deep down, when push comes to shove, every one of us knows that we have the choice of how we handle life situations, of what we make of them, of what we think of them, of how much attention we give to which aspects of them. and that this is just a simple truth of life. So I think sometimes as I've been reading a lot of different, there's so many people now getting involved in this work. Isn't it thrilling? It's just thrilling to me to see, all these new faces and new people that are very deeply touched that are getting into the work. But sometimes, and I think we all have been there, we're so accustomed to making things difficult and complicated and hard to understand and mysterious, and so many spiritual, practices or spiritual philosophies have tended to push us in that direction. There's a wise person and then the rest of us. And the one thing that I took away from the years that I was privileged, and so many of you on the call knew him even better than I, that I was privileged to know Sid, is, don't make it about me. Don't think that I know something that you don't know, because anyone can know this. We all know it. And it was a refreshing thought to me, because I think initially, as we all first got involved, and when Sid was alive, this was a really powerful driving force, is that we got to get to a Sid conference, we got to spend time with Sid, we got to listen to Sid, we got to, and it was very interesting how often he just pushed that away from, he pushed us away from that. Don't do that. I'm grateful that you want to listen, and you should listen, but listen for your own wisdom. Listen for your own gifts. Listen to yourself. Listen to your common sense. Listen for the feeling that you get when you're aware that you're the thinker, that you're using these gifts, and you have a choice at every moment how to use it. And that's what distinguishes this work from, to me, everything else that I've ever seen in the spiritual realm, is that it was never about the so-called guru or spiritual leader or whatever you want to say. It was always about every single person on the planet psychologically being exactly the same, only being aware of it at different levels. And I know I used to do volunteer work in Morgantown, West Virginia, in a homeless shelter, and I did that for about 10 years. And I just ran an innate health group once a week, but to the degree that in a homeless shelter you have continuity, there were a lot of people that came whenever they were in town over the course of a number of years. And I remember one of the people in that shelter telling me, "You're the only person that's ever said to me that we're the same, you and I, even though you're coming from the university and I'm coming from the street." And he said, that's very powerful to me, to think that that as human beings we're exactly the same. But that's the gift. The gift is we come into humanity with exactly the same power to create whatever it is that we're going to create as our life, and that power is profoundly visible, even though it's invisible. It's visible every time we change our minds, every time we stop before we say something hurtful, every time we go to raise a hand to a child and then pull back and go, no, that's my anger, it's not their problem. Every time we don't make a phone call that might have hurt somebody's feelings or might have led to gossip or unpleasantness. And every time we do, we're using those gifts to propel action. So every action is preceded by whatever thought is driving it, and the thought is preceded by the gift of the principles that allow us to create and then use that thought, or not. And that's it. I mean, that's kind of, it is that simple. And it was hard. It was hard for me in the beginning too to go, yeah, it's that simple, because I was kind of brought up in the tradition that really smart people were required to understand important things. And it's a humbling moment when you realize that being really smart gets in your way when you're trying to do this work. That the smarter you are, the worse it is, because you keep wanting to make it into something so much more elaborate than it was ever designed to be. So it's sort of like I remember when I was a young girl, my aunt was determined that I was going to learn how to knit, and I didn't really particularly want to learn how to knit, but she was babysitting for me, and that was what we were going to do no matter what. So I started wanting, and she was absolutely beautiful. I mean, she knit the most incredibly gorgeous, elaborate things, all these cable knit sweaters and hats with tassels and all kinds of stuff, and I was very impressed with the output. But of course, in my crude little beginning, knit one, purl two, it was just, I was getting this very plain, small thing that seemed to me to be ugly and useless. And I remember, it's always come back to me, my aunt sitting down saying to me, if you don't get the simple stitches, the complex stuff will never make sense to you. And that's true. I mean, everything, if you don't get how to add and subtract, calculus will never make sense to you. If you don't get subject-verb, English grammar with all its complexity will never make sense to you. There's always some very fundamental, simple basis, principle driving the most complicated things in life. And our role, in my mind at least, our role as practitioners is to keep people coming back to that, coming back to this is really very simple. It's not a big deal. It's a psychological truth that you know already, and to the degree that that knowledge comes to life for you and informs your soul, you'll make better choices because you can tell when you're going off track and you know it's you. And that's, bottom line is, whether we know it or not, we are at choice. So if we're making choices that are hurtful to us, the first thing you have to know is that you're choosing, sadly. I mean, that just has to be the first thing that people realize is it isn't that thing that's frightening me or that experience or that circumstance. It's my inadvertent use of the gifts of mind, consciousness, and thought to address that thing in a way that isn't working out for me. So I'm going to stop for a second now and say anybody that wants to unmute and comment or ask a question before I say anything more, that would be great, if there's anybody that wants to.
So as Judy says, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. I think there's few enough people on this meeting that will be easy to do that.
Yeah, not only that, but wonderful people that are great teachers who might be able to say the same thing better. But well, okay, since there's nothing right now, let me go on, and I was going to tell you all, actually kind of raise an issue that's kind of interesting to me right now. I'm working with this client who is a 24-year-old young man who has been through 3 rehab programs. Each time he's been to rehab, he's gotten off of everything that he's been taking or drinking or using and come back enthusiastic and full of interest and excitement about life and the determination that this is it for me, I'm better, I'm going to be fine. And each time, within a matter of weeks, he's ended up back in the doctor's office getting Xanax. And it's very difficult for him to realize that making that appointment in a moment of insecurity is a misuse of the gifts that he has. In other words, what he's done is he all of us who've ever been insecure, we're really good at it. We know how to be insecure. And we know how to use those gifts against ourselves. We're really experts at, getting very agitated about something and not realizing that the power is within us to let that pass and to regain our bearings. And I just recently met this young man. I'm just telling you the story of what he's done habitually, and now he's actually using and drinking and trying to fight it himself. And he's once in a while will call me and because somebody in his life thinks that I can help him. And when I tell him, you have to start realizing how powerful you are. You're not the victim of all these things that are going wrong in your life. You're not just a helpless human being being blown about and bandied about by all these family difficulties and dysfunctional people that keep interfering with your progress and all this stuff. That you are making a choice at some point to decide, oh, yeah, those insecure thoughts, I'm used to them. That's what I'm going to spend my time with. And the last time I talked to him, he said to me, I really hate you for this because I don't want to be responsible. I was doing better when I was blaming everybody and blaming all this stuff that was going on. He has a terrible family situation, so, it's not like he's at a loss for things to make up to blame. And now every time I find myself doing that, I have to stop and realize, oh, wait, it's not them. And it's really infuriating to me. And I said, well, it's okay. I don't personally care whether you hate me or not. If you're getting the message, that's all I care about. But don't blame me. I said, now you're blaming me for the fact that you're starting to see your own thinking. I thought it was hilarious, because he's so much in the thought habit of using those principles to blame somebody for everything, that he's got to blame somebody even when it's working out for him. It's got to be somebody's fault. And so I said, it's really kind of important that you start to realize that, it's that habit of using those gifts, using those beautiful gifts of mind, consciousness, and thought to make up a story about who's at fault. That's really at the bottom of all of your troubles. You just keep making that up, and now you're making up that it's my fault that you're doing better, and that it's annoying to you because you were happier when you were angry at everybody. And it's kind of upsetting to be angry at yourself, but you don't really have to be angry at all. You can just realize that anger is just another thought. And, it's so interesting because the tapestry of what we can weave with our thoughts is so it's like stitches over stitches over stitches. And seeing that it all starts with this very simple, the energy of life flows through me, I create a thought, and I become conscious of that thought, and I spend a lot of time with it. I hang out with it, and I get used to it, and I keep going back to it. And that's all that's happening with this young man. He's, I'm really happy that he told me what he told me, because I think that was an important part of his learning. But it was also really kind of hilariously funny that it was still the same thought was still at work. That same little that somebody's got to be at fault for this. And that's part of to me the gift that we have, the gift of awareness of what we're doing, is to be able to laugh at ourselves and to be able to step back and go, oh wait, it's just that habit again. It's just that way of using my thinking again. There it is, and see it. So I'm going to stop again just in case to see. I just always don't like to have people feel like they're thwarted because we're all muted. So is there anyone that wants to unmute and comment or ask a question?
I'd like to ask a question if it's okay.
Sure, of course.
I'm the newbie.
Okay,
I've been learning this
you are?
I'm Melissa.
Hi.
I've been learning this. I was introduced to the principles about 4 years ago, almost 4 years, and I've been teaching for about a year.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, and it's going well, and it's really just amazing to watch people shift. You know.
Yeah. Yes.
So what I wanted to ask you about is, it's actually funny that you brought up this story because it's right on where I wanted to ask you about. I find that, you know, this subconscious thinking that you don't really see, in other words, the stuff that's really invisible to you, is a lot of the time what's causing us to do act in certain ways. And it's completely unconscious to us. Like, we don't have a choice so much to not do that because it really looks like a great idea. Right? So even though you're angry or that, it's like until you first say, okay, this, you know, I see the anger and it's just a thought, until you sometimes you get an insight in a second, and sometimes it takes not a second. But I find that is to the extent that someone, this is what I've seen, and this is what I see in myself, like to the extent that someone, even though outwardly I know drugs is a bad thing, there's a subconscious thought in there that really thinks it's helping you. That there's a something in there that is seeing this as necessary, like a necessary evil type of thing. And it's like until they see, oh my God, this is not a good thing. You know, because how many times do people go like, well, like I was just telling Keith that I had a client and she's been telling me for months how I know I'm thinking, I know I'm thinking, and then all of a sudden she just called me last week. She's like, I see all my thinking. Oh my God, I didn't realize I was thinking all this time.
Yeah.
But in her mind, that insight, she knew she was thinking. She knew it wasn't a good thing. She knew everything. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, so I feel like, you know, it's like, and that's where really that insight comes in that we can't find, you know, we can't force the insight. That's where mind comes in, and we kind of got to be patient with it. But I feel like that subconscious, and a lot of times I'll talk to my clients and I'll say, you know what, there's somewhere in there that this looks like a really good idea to you. You might want to just get curious about that. Why is this a good idea? What's the benefit? Sometimes what is the benefit?
Yeah,
and,
well,
and
you
I
know,
make them kind of, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. No, that was it. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, you know, when people are really down, drugs do help them. I mean, you know, that's the irony. Is that so? The question that the thing that they need to realize is it's not so much as thinking, no, this isn't helping me, is to realize that they can help themselves, and it's okay to be down. You know, that it's temporary. And so, you know, when I'm talking to people that are saying things like that, first of all, it's kind of tricky when you use the idea of subconscious, because essentially that gets, I don't know, for some people that gives them an excuse. You know, they can say, oh, well, see, it's subconscious. I'm not even aware I'm doing it, so it's okay. And the fact is that we always know what we're doing with our thinking, even if we're not conscious of exactly what the thought is, because we can tell by how we feel. So the real barometer of our existence and what we're doing mentally, psychologically, is not the content of our thinking or the excuses that we're making or the reasons that we're giving or the ideas that we have or any particular thought. It's, you know, the simple question is, when you're using your thinking this way, are you feeling better or worse? And if you're feeling worse, turn your mind in another direction. Just look away. And that's it. You know, don't go into it. I mean, for people to start examining their thinking or examining the content of their thinking usually leads them to kind of a circular, it's a circular path. They're going to end up, everybody is going to end up with an insight if they have a patient person with their eye on the ball, with their eye on the principles and what's really true, who's having their conversations with them. But I think the less said about what people are thinking, the better, because it isn't what they're thinking; it's what they're experiencing from whatever thinking they're doing. So because once I really saw the truth of how the principles work, once I really saw that that's what's going on, it's just mind consciousness and thought, and whatever is happening is that's all it is, I could pretty much think anything, and I could be buffered from getting all worked up about it. You know, it gives you a kind of perspective, so that the content is less important, and it's the state of mind in which you're doing that thinking and how it's affecting your state of mind. So it's that's the tricky piece of it for people, because when we talk about thought, everybody goes right to content. What is that particular thought? And I kind of did it with that story about the young man, because he has a certain habit of using his thinking to come up with blame. But what I want to point him to is that he's doing that. I don't care what he's doing. You know, it's not like he has to overcome that particular thought. He has to overcome the seductive nature of ways of thinking that we do all the time without even realizing that we're the thinker, that we're making it up. So I'm glad you asked that question, because it kind of makes me take a look at my story and make sure that I focus on the right part of it, because you know, I don't really care what the thought habit is. It's important for people to realize that we have things that we do so naturally and so readily, because we've kind of always used our thinking that way, that we forget that we're still driving that boat. You know, we're using our thinking that way. It's not like thinking is meant to produce blame, or meant to produce excuses, or meant to produce unhappiness. Thinking is just meant to produce life, and how we do that is much more important. That we're doing it is much more important than what we're doing with it.
Right.
Does that help or make sense at all?
It really does. Yeah. I find for me that I do still get caught up on, and I don't know if it's I just get very caught up on, is this a true thought? Like, in other words, is this truth, or is this, and I'm trying to really look at that and say, like, well, maybe I think it's true, so now it is, but there is a reality out there, right? So if someone comes to me and says, I have no money and I hate it, the truth is he has no money. That's not false.
No, but I hate it is not necessarily. That's
right.
Yeah. Well, it's in it
but
also.
In a way, there's a truth to not. You know what I'm saying? To not being that. So that's what I've been looking at really for myself, is like, when there is a truth that I would think, you know, the thought would correspond to the circumstance, right? I'm really trying to see if that might not be true. Like, maybe maybe you could have no money. I'm just giving an example, and not, you know, and only be able to buy pasta, and that's fine. So I've been really trying to see about that.
Here's the thing: is that for people that have a lot of money, there's not enough money in the world.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's kind of, you have to realize that we live on this sort of sliding scale of truth, because there are things that are true. You know, like, it's true right now what time it is. Even though it's a different time for all of us that are in different time zones. You know, it's true that Christmas is coming. It's true that terrible tragedies have happened in the world, even as we speak. It's true that some people are suffering. It's true that there are people who are terminally ill. But, you know, that's not life. That's just what's happening. But our real life is our spiritual life, and I don't mean this in the religious sense at all. I mean, really, the experience of living is what we're doing with our thinking moment to moment while we're experiencing our experience, whatever that is. So if I have no money and I'm using my thinking to create this experience of poverty and misery, and other people have things and I don't have them, and oh my God, and I never think of myself as having anything, then really I'm going to have a very negative experience of life. But if I have no money and I am grateful for friends, and I'm grateful for the fact that I can use my thinking to come up with ideas to better my life, and that there are places that I can get help if I need help, then I'm going to have a different experience of having no money. It's going to look much less threatening and much more temporary.
Right.
So it's not, yeah, there's things that are true, but they're true for people in different ways depending on how they're using their thinking about them. Like I have a friend right now, actually was my very first boss when I was, years ago, I was a newspaper person, and this guy was the editor and president of the paper that the St. Petersburg Times, the paper that I was involved with, and he's right now in hospice care. He has very little time left to live, and we've been emailing all of his friends from years before. We've all been emailing him, and he can still do that. He can still email, but he can't really have guests. And so he sent out an email to everybody that he's so excited that his goal in life, he was brought up in a really a very Christian family, and he always found the Bible very hard to read. And he thought it was very sad that the Bible was inaccessible to people because it was hard to read and it was complicated and it was very, that the nugget of truth was missing. So he always wanted to take an editor's pen. Now this could seem sacrilegious to somebody on the call, and if it is, too bad. But he always wanted to take an editor's pen to the Bible and edit it so that it could be read as easily as a newspaper story. At the 8th grade level, this is just it, the simple facts. And he did. He finished it. And it's on Amazon right now. And so he sent out an email to everybody saying, I can't believe this, but I finished it, and it's out there, and anyone can get it. And now I'm ready to go, because that was the last thing left that I really, really, really wanted to do, and I never found the time to do it. And these weeks of being very ill, it's really been months, gave me the gift of that time, because that's pretty much all I could do. I could think and I could type. And now there are plenty of people who are at that point in their life who are just thinking about everything they've lost and how sad it is and how they can't have visitors and they can't do this and they can't do that. So this is to me, the example of how a person uses that gift up until the very end to create whatever experience we're having of the experience of life, whatever that is. And it's really important to give people that freedom, to know that it doesn't matter what's going on around you or what circumstances you're in, because what you're feeling, how you see it, how you experience it and live through it and live it out is entirely within your power. Entirely. Doesn't matter. So any other comments or questions? Okay, well, I was going to...
Judy?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Hi, Judy. It's Don. How are you?
Oh, great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I had a question that might be helpful.
Okay.
I know how many business people you've worked with over the years.
Yeah.
And what, having been in business, I know that there's so many type A, action-oriented, high achievement people out there. And when you talk to them about the principles, they're very much, they want to absorb it, understand it, and then act on it. And
move on.
Move on, apply it.
Right,
and,
Mm-hmm.
And one of the hardest things to get across has been this whole idea of understanding is enough, because so very few things in their lives line up with that. And
actually, virtually nothing does, to be honest, right?
Yeah, virtually nothing does.
Right.
And so they're so used to things being a certain way, and then the principles turn it upside down. And I was just curious about your thoughts about how you convey that to people, the idea that understanding is enough. Where do you point them? How do you try to move them in that direction? Because I know from personal experience that when that penny drops on that point, things can really take off for people.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of got an interesting thing going on right now that speaks to that. I was just about 3 or 4 months ago, I got a call from a woman who runs a big foundation in Sarasota, which has a lot of money, and their way of going about things is to initiate projects, not take grant applications. So they reach out, they pick things that they think will better life according to the interests of the family that left all the money, and then they set up collaborative partnerships with people who will accept the money and the partnership. And so they have a partnership going right now in Sarasota, the Ringling College of Art and Design, which is one of the premier art and design colleges in the world. And they had a 2-year they've been 2 years into this project and made no progress whatsoever. And they had brought a consultant in, and the consultant managed to piss off everybody at Ringling, and Ringling people didn't like the consultant, and the consultant didn't like them, and then the report was flawed, and they couldn't get the information that he needed from people because they didn't like him and they weren't cooperating with him. And so they were almost ready to give up on this project, but then this person from the foundation who ran the foundation, who's known me for years, called me. And she said, you know, I hate to give this up because it's such a good idea, and it's something I really would love to see happen. And the college really wants this. They don't like the way we're going about it. And so would you take it on? And I'll do, you know, we'll do 3 years and see if you can get it back on track. So I said, sure, because I'm hoping that this person decides at some point that she wants to collaborate with us. And I thought this is a great opportunity for me to live what we do and have her get curious about how did you do that when all these other people, it wasn't working. So, and here's what is very interesting. So I visited with the college. I already knew the president of the college, but I didn't know too many of the faculty or any of the other people there. So I started visiting with people at the college and just inquiring, you know, like what's happening, what's gone wrong, you know, what's gone right. And so they, about a month into that process, the deans went to the president of the college and said, you know, maybe we should reconsider this thing, this collaboratory thing. And because, you know, it's starting to make sense to us now. So the president calls me and he says, what are you doing? How come these people are coming around? And I said, well, all I can tell you is, number one, I'm very interested in their feelings about it and what they have to say, because they're the experts, not me. You know, all I can do is kind of work with the gifts that they bring to the table. And I said, and second of all, I'm a big believer that in a calm state of mind, people see beyond their limitations and see beyond their fears and see beyond their anxiety. So I try to treat state of mind first. When I'm meeting with people, I don't really want to get into the subject at hand until they're in a peaceful, quiet state. He said, well, how the hell do you do that? He said, because he's a person, to give you a clue of kind of what kind of person he is, his last job, he started the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So he's a person that's, you know, one of those type A, go, let's just get moving. He's always 6 steps ahead of himself. He runs, not walks. So he said, you know, what difference does it make? And I said, well, it makes a big difference. I said, like, we're having this conversation right now, and I haven't seen you look at your watch yet. Of course, he immediately looked at his watch. And I said, so now that I've brought it up, of course, you're looking at your watch. But I said, you know, every other meeting I've ever seen you in, you've been looking at your watch as soon as the meeting starts. He said, yeah, that's true. He said, I wasn't looking at my watch. I said, well, why do you think that was? He said, well, I don't know. There's something about sitting around talking to you, I kind of lose track of time. And I said, well, take me out of the equation. because it's not about talking to me, but it's about the way we talk when we're together. So he said, I don't understand. And I said, well, if you really want me to explain it to you, I'd be happy to do that. So I've got, after the first of the year, because they're all on Christmas break now, I'm going to be going in and doing a little thing on meaningful communication and why that's the starting point for anything new with him and the senior leadership people. But I never I have yet to mention the principles to any of these people. Now, that's probably, there's probably people on this call that are horrified. It's like, what do you mean? It's your role in life is to teach the principles. But I know that they'll see it, they'll figure it out. It'll occur to them. And the less I say about me and the things that I believe in and what I want them to see, and the more I just live it with them, and they become more curious about why they do better in certain ways than other times, they'll ask me, and when they ask me, I'll tell them. I don't know if that's helpful, but this is something I've come to after years of doing, and not unsuccessfully, I might add. I'm not suggesting that that's a bad thing to do, but I've spent years going into corporate clients and institutional clients and teaching or sharing the principles as though it was a management technique. I mean, in their mind, that's what they think they're learning. They think they're learning another tool in their toolbox, because that's every time you take a bunch of corporate people and put them in a room with a trainer in the front of the room. That's why we always get pressure to have a notebook or where's your handouts. It's because they're habituated to thinking, oh, okay, this is going to be a technique. I'll learn this technique or to pick up this tool, and then I'll just add it into my toolbox or into my, things that I can do. And so they never pick up on the spiritual piece of it. And it took me years to figure that out, that why is it that there are some people, and you're a prime example, who just see it, and as soon as they see it, it's so obvious to them that they can't understand why it isn't obvious to everybody. And there are other people that just keep trying to apply it, and it never gets anywhere with them. They're just making it into an application rather than a way of seeing life. And it finally dawned on me fairly recently, I will say, after almost 30 years, so I take no credit here, could have dawned on me a lot sooner, that if I just enter into consulting relationships that have to do with something that's important to them, like strategic thinking or working on a personnel problem, or in this case, creating a whole new venture, a whole new way of looking at their curriculum, basically, and do my very best to bring out the best in them and help them to see how to think through things for themselves without even trying to teach them the principles. Eventually, they'll ask for them. They'll ask to understand why it's working, because people can't stand it. They got to know what's happening here. So I don't know if that's helpful, Don, or if it even makes sense to you, but that's kind of like where I am with that now, is that otherwise it's hit and miss. I think I'm going to be able to tell more people more in a way that means something to them because they've already had that spiritual feeling. They've already been in meetings where everybody got very quiet and thoughtful and reflective, and the conversation was kind of slowed down, and people didn't say things that weren't necessary. People weren't, their egos kind of took a nap, which is not always easy. That having had that experience now, they really are desperate to recreate it. They want to know. And so that's really why and it isn't really that understanding, it is everything. It is all they need, because once they understand it, they'll always be bringing out the best in each other and having these very constructive experiences. But they still have to know their business. They have to know a lot of stuff, So this isn't something it's something you you experience at a very profound level. And
that's very helpful, and it sounds very familiar to me. So I appreciate it.
And you know, and that's how you ran your company. I mean, that's why so many people were so drawn to it, because they were like, "How the hell is he doing this?" You know, don't you think? I mean, when I looked at it, I thought they're all looking at Don and Dick and these people, and they're going like, "Why is their life so much easier than mine?" You know.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Judy.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, any other questions? Anybody else? Anybody? Bueller? Okay, well, Aaron, I think I'm supposed to be done at 1. Is that because my clock is saying 1 o'clock? I just wondered, is it time to wrap up? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi, this is Elizabeth from Sweden. I don't know
hi.
that I can hear you, but I think we lost Aaron and Dawn, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just confirming that I don't hear them either.
Well, in that case, I guess it's time for me to say goodbye. So I wish for all of you who are celebrating at this season of the year, happy times, and much love and joy in the new year. And thank you very much for this great opportunity to speak with you. So take care of yourselves.
Judy?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Thank you. Really helpful.
Okay, well, everybody take care. I'm so glad. Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk with you all.
Thanks, Judy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.